Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. It's 7:30 a.m. in council chambers at Sandpoint, Idaho City Hall, and this is the regular meeting of the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Board of Commissioners. So, you're good, Kendon. Roll call. I, Eric Paul, Chairman. For the record, Commissioners Kendon Perry, Tom McCoy, Jake Humboldt, Andrew Mercatio are present. Commissioner Marilyn Sabella is participating remotely. No board members are absent. Meeting minutes approval, item number 3. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board's July 7th, 2020 meeting. Motion?
Move to approve.
Tom? Second. Second, Kendon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Financial report. Account balances as of July 23rd, 2020. Downtown, as you can see by the report, had $666,919.82. $38,867.49 for our revenue allocation funds. Those are our payment for our 2011 note. The Northern had $2.12,805. Loan balance for downtown, $244,590. That loan will pay off in March of 2021. The downtown 2018 debt has $1.329 million.
Could you just clarify the Northern number again?
For loan balance?
Yeah.
$1,329,708.10. All right.
Okay, yeah. No, I think it was the upper number, the 2.512.
Oh, that's
it.
a
2.12.
Excuse me. Yeah, for the Northern deposit balance, it's $2,512,805.58. Thanks, Tom. No increment received in July for either district as of July 23rd. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding this month's financial report? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments?
There's no one on Zoom this morning, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Are there any other reports or comments from commissioners, or any commissioners that have general comments reports this morning, or reports this morning on anything? Very done. So we'll move down to item 6, downtown streets and engineering update. Infrastructure development services. No, wait, we're going to ask Jennifer Stapleton, city administrator, if there's any updates for downtown streets projects and downtown streets engineering.
I don't have any updates today,
Thank you,
Mr.
Jennifer.
Chair.
Thanks, Jennifer. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding this month's downtown streets update? Perfect. This is going smooth.
I have one question. So First Avenue is substantially done for this phase?
First Avenue is completely done for this phase. So the plan would be this year, we're taking a year off from any construction. It would be going into the following year. We'll start moving into design again. We'll have a better sense of where we are with tax increment coming in at that point. And then look at construction the following year. So we're about 3 years out from our next construction, and that will include definitely the intersection at First and Bridge, and then going down to at least Pine, hopefully beyond. But the amount of increment available will kind of determine the scope of the project, whether we can go beyond Pine.
Jennifer, do you know when they're going to have an accounting of what the reimbursement will be for us to start processing now?
I will double check on that today. So okay. We should have that here.
Okay.
We should have that here within the next few weeks.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission? I don't have to ask the public question again.
No, Mr. Chair, no one has joined.
Okay, thank you. Northern District updates, anything, Jennifer, to update us on for the Northern?
The contract's been awarded with JUD Engineering for the preliminary engineering at Great Northern, and that work will be continuing into the next fiscal year. And so we have a budget request related to that for next fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission to downtown, or the northern, excuse me. Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6D and 6E. We have Sandpoint Arts Commissioner Ellie Susness, sorry, is here to provide an update on the Sandpoint Public Arts Program and the Silver Projects box. Ellie?
Hi there, thank you. First, I'll give a quick update on the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Historic Master Planning effort. The consultants from the Lakota Group and Sorelli Phillips were here a couple weeks ago. They met with staff, city commissioners, the steering committee, artists, and various others in order to prepare a state of the city report and plan the public engagement portion of the process in the coming weeks. If anyone would like to sign up for updates and get the information for surveys and such, the address is www.sandpointartspreservationplan.com. And so we're looking forward to that in the next couple weeks. Moving on, I wanted to mention that the artistic utility box wraps have started to go up. Our first one went up on the box at Boyer on Highway 2 across from Dove's. Beautiful, by Maggie Dawson, installed by a local company, Busy Beaver Graphics. And those are sponsored by STCU. Moving on to the Sandpoint Silver Box Project, I wanted to report that 2 of the 3 of the Art on Loan pieces were taken down this month due to damage. And I'm not sure, I haven't got the final report, whether it was vandalism or material failure. Maybe Jennifer knows, I'm not sure.
So we had the heart piece, the heart sculpture come down, and we suspect with that, actually the weld that was holding that up, it was the weld failed. And so that resulted in the piece tipping and ultimately the loss of that piece. The second piece was the bird outside of the post office, and the artist actually did a video about that. So he had that bird in his garage for actually a couple decades, I believe it was. But when it got installed outside and in the sun, what he ultimately determined is when he completed the piece, sculpted it, and then had painted it, that it hadn't fully dried inside. And so what we saw was the outside elements ended up impacting that. And so the wood had cracked. It had been repaired several times, and ultimately it was beyond repair. So there was some discussion at the council meeting, I would note, with Arts Commission presenting the next series of pieces, and with the council requesting that significant consideration be given to the durability of the pieces in that outdoor weather. So.
And just so you know, we do, when we go through the selection process, you know, we have photos that we look at, and we consider the materials, we consider, you know, we have to look at the artist's resume to make sure that they have pieces that have been out in the weather. I mean, you can't control everything, but when we're in a selection panel, we do try and look at all of those areas so that we can pick something that will ultimately be durable. And they lasted 11 months. It was disappointing.
Right.
It was disappointing, but so it goes. So that segues into the fact that we, at our regular meeting in July, the art commissioners sifted through the submissions for our next round, and we came up with 3 selections, and we sent them to city council mid-July. And we have Struggle by Nathan Robles, which will go at 4th and Oak Street, and it's a metal sculpture. It depicts a person rolling a rather heavy ball up the hill, which I think we all can identify with in this year. So that one will go at across in the park. We also have the Green Feather by Kirksey's, which will go at 4th and Church, which is by the post office. Now, this is a steel structure with painted wood panels, and it's quite colorful and bright, and it's actually very tall. It's 10 feet tall, and then when you put it on that box, it's going to be 12 feet tall. So we anticipate it being very, very bright and bold in that spot.
And which location is that for?
That's in front of the post office.
Okay.
And then we have Native Eagle Chieftain by David Boransky, who is our local artist. And that is carved out of stone. And I don't know if anyone saw, we had an article in the Reader about David Boransky. So that was a couple weeks ago. If you want to look it up online, it's quite interesting. Got kind of the history of his developing his work and where he got the stone. And so that is it. They will be installed by Labor Day weekend is our goal.
And that one's 5th and Oak.
Yes. Yeah, so where the marble sculpture is now, David Bransky's will be in that location. Yeah. Yeah. So that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Does the board have any questions or comments regarding this month's report from Art and Ellie?
So Ellie, so these will stay up for how long?
1 year.
Anybody from the public? Join yet?
No, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thanks. All right, now we'll move to item, thanks, Ellie.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to item 6F for fiscal year 2021 budget, proposed budget. Please note as we prepare to review and discuss the proposed 2021 Sandpoint Renewal Agency budget, the board will not be taking any questions or comments from the public this morning. The public hearing will be scheduled with the opportunity for public testimony at that time. All right. So Tom and I worked on this year's proposed budget, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it. So basically what we did is we just moved forward from the cash flow projection the previous year. We just moved every project forward. And I don't think there are any changes in that. On project funding. So the project funding, we have estimated repayment to the city of $400,000. That's a forecast based on when we receive the accounting from the city and then what we have in our reserves for next year.
And just to be, this is regarding the downtown cash flow statement, right?
Yes.
I just have a process question. In the event there was an overage, what happens then? Does it just go back to the general fund for reallocation, or? Let's say the downtown fund was under what we budgeted for.
The city
Or
will
is
get
it,
less.
okay, it would get less, but if we had more in the account.
So what we'll do is then we keep a minimum balance. We
Okay.
try to supposed to keep a calculation of EBITDA, which is earnings, your cash flow for debt payment. So we need to keep that minimum in our account. So that's what our cash flow tried to present.
Great.
I don't know, is that clear?
And I think what you're also saying is that if we, for this year, if our increment is bigger and so our budget is higher,
Yeah.
my understanding is it rolls over to the next year up until plan year 24. So as we get more and more balance, that can fund additional projects if the increment ends up being higher than it is. At the end of plan year 24, I know in it says what happens if there's an excess amount at that point. I don't know what the details are.
So, right, so at the end of plan year 2024, which is 2029, if there's excess funds and the city has been fully reimbursed, all projects have been funded for both districts, then the monies that are remaining go back to each taxing entity at the percentage that was received over the life. And I keep track of that. So like the city might get, if there's 100,000 and we're collecting 45% of the revenue we get is from the city, then they will get 45,000 of that. The other county, the hospital, the library, we get the balances.
Great, that is.
That's when you close out the books. Good question. We did make an adjustment on the tax increment forecast for each district based on the fact that last year's revenue collection was less than our forecast. So I had always kept kicking it up, and it's like, we needed to pull it back to what actually was and recast it and then do our increases. So we did that. So you'll see it a little bit less.
Yeah, so the 2% scenario on those tabs, those are pretty conservative numbers, because that increment, even for the rest of the year, could end up, because we're actually tracking higher than just getting 2% increment.
What else? We do have the city streets or city parking lot in this year's forecasted budget. Again, if the city decides to delay that for whatever reason, we don't spend it. We roll forward if they want to do it in the later, and we get that communication from the city on a yearly basis. Northern, the only project we have going on up there is the engineering right now for Great Northern.
Right.
Correct. And then any art. So, is there any questions on this proposed budget?
Eric, you said you put in or took out something for the city parking lot.
No, the city parking lot is in plan year. So if you look at your cash flow forecast, you'll see it's plan year 14 is the city parking lot. So that's the year that we're working on now. So we haven't spent the engineering and the downtown streets money. We keep them in the budget because we still allocated for it, so we can spend it next year. So what we added, peeled into it would be 215,000 additional for the city parking lot.
Okay.
And that has been hanging out there for several years. It's just a priority timing.
And if you look at some of the beginning balances, like if you look at plan year 17, it gets as low as 25,135. How does that make us look in terms of being not violating our credit covenants?
I think we're right on the edge. The plan year, yeah, and that's basically just with that one debt that we have at that time, which is the 2011 or 2018 debt.
And just for the question, if the increment ends up being lower than expected and we're at risk of violating that covenant, essentially what would happen is we would push out money that gets repaid back to the city.
Correct. And we don't know the final number yet. It's in the 3 something range.
Correct.
Less than 3.5, I think.
Yes.
So if it's less than 3.5 or so, then it will be, there's more projects that we can fund, we pay it off quicker. We'll just recalculate the math on that. Good question.
And that can be at the discretion of the commission because it's been budgeted in that fund, in that area.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so all the debt repayments to the city are just a function of what we receive in income going forward. And we're not accepting any current requests for any projects downtown. Unless the city says, we don't want to be reimbursed for that, we would rather you do this, then that's a discussion we'd have in the future. So that's our intent, is repay that street project on First and Cedar. Any other questions?
And I would just say, as you look at the balances, to Eric's point, downtown really doesn't have very much budget left for anything that's not currently in there. The Northern District has a lot of opportunity depending on what we want to do with Great Northern or other opportunities in that area.
Currently, our projection is our estimates for Great Northern. The initial estimates is it will exceed the amount of increment available in the Northern District.
Even at the end of plan year 2024.
Yes.
Jennifer, it sounds like that's the focus of the city is Great Northern rather than any other projects that we may have been on the books or planned previously.
Yes, and so the Northern District was originally created for the purpose of funding the Great Northern Project. So that's, again, a priority for us right now. And in terms of redoing Great Northern, it will be looking at the stormwater, which will have the benefit for economic development and industrial growth in that area by addressing some of the what we consider currently to be wetlands, but it's really just lands with drainage issues around Great Northern, but then it will be ultimately a road alignment. And then when we look at lighting along there, we look at either a pathway or sidewalks along there. We expect again that overall the project will exceed what's available in Northern. This year will tell us a lot more as we get further into preliminary engineering and design. So I anticipate that'll be a point of discussion this year with the Renewal Agency.
And also note in the Northern District, there's about $730,000 of projected developer reimbursement that has not yet been asked for. So every year that drops off, each year's amount drops off, which is around $70,000, a little over $70,000 each year drops off. So they can't go back and recoup something that they missed. And so far, that's the same developer, and they have not asked for any reimbursement.
And that's been several years, correct?
Yes.
But we have to keep that in the budget each year because there's nothing to prevent them from getting it, which means that, you know, if they keep doing it, it's 70,000 more balance than we thought we were going to have.
Correct. We have a signed reimbursement agreement with the developer.
Larry, just for clarity, I mean, clearly we're experiencing growth, property value increases, just real high level. How does that impact us or not?
So it depends on the district, so the footprint. So the tax increment is the revenue allocation areas. That's where we get it from. So if you have growth in that, then you'll have a perceived increase. We've had some drop in the downtown recently, and we think that's partly due to the Columbia State building getting reevaluated and pushed down on value. So you lose on that. So anytime there's a reevaluation of your tax values, you lose a little bit. All taxing entities do. But it's just need that lift. We haven't had a lot of lift in certain areas yet. And I don't know if it's fully valued, the Columbia Bank. I don't know if is the Chava building occupied down below? The first floor?
I believe so.
So then that comes back on. They first up the top floor and it changes things.
So we're at the mercy of the assessor's department to go out and analyze that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then the county has been doing a good job the last year or so collecting where you're claiming a homeowner's exemption and you don't live here. They've recouped a lot of that in the last year. So we haven't seen a big lift from it because it's going backwards from other years too. So the amounts are different.
What we expect from the city side is where you'll see the growth in increments going to be in the Northern District over the next several years. When we're looking at where we've got developments coming through, we're in kind of the early stages of processing those. We're obviously running out of land in a lot of the areas of the city where we have land available is really in the Northern District, which also then kind of begs the need for addressing Great Northern now rather than later, because several of the developments are right in that immediate area. And that will be one of the main roads for commute back and forth from those new developments going in.
So if you look at the Northern District and if you specifically look at Great Northern, if you start at Woodland on the north and come down basically to about where you enter Quest, the official entrance or the Silver Wings complex, that's about the westernmost border where we could collect tax increment. And it goes up. And so it includes all that vacant area and that area that's got all the new hangar development that was fenced in. The value's not there yet because there's no vertical development, but as those hangars go on, then we'll get some lift from that. And then from Boyer west, any infill there would help.
You've got a small development coming there.
Right.
So that could potentially close the gap between what we've got available and what you'll need to ultimately finish that project, correct?
Right. So I haven't run the numbers for a couple of years, but historically we get about $10,000 per $1 million of value. Okay. So, and, you know, you get several $1 million, exactly, it'll close that gap. Even downtown. So our downtown major areas that you can have potential additional redevelopment would be the block between Pine and Church, second to third, where the Alpine Shop is, and Utara. If that ever on the Pine Street side ever got infilled differently, you could get a lift there. The area around the granary has potential for more lift upside. The Pedal Talk area, Pedal Talk towards, I call the old Safeway building, that area, if that ever redeveloped, that would add value. And maybe, oh, and then Seasons, the last pad, if that ever goes vertical, that's in our district. All the Seasons was.
And that building, their approval is in process right now, so we're expecting actually construction on that this year.
Okay. But the buildings on the water side first, on Sand Creek side, are not within the revenue allocation area. So where Arlo's was and where the Hound Pizza, and redevelopment there won't benefit us. It benefits the whole, right? But
Whatever the city does on Farmers Landing, we will play in that.
that's our money's committed to the street thing. Unless they shift.
And the district was drawn years ago, correct?
2005. It was adopted and approved in 2005, so it was probably started in probably 2004. It was the intent for the downtown district was to finish the downtown street projects that was started in the late 1990s, I guess, and mid 2000s when they did Jeff Jones Square and that section of Second between Main and Cedar, where Jalapenos is. That was our first street redevelopment. And then the funding stopped after they did those two projects. Then we did third between Main and Pine. Then we did third from Main to Cedar, second Main to Pine. And then we started working on fourth and third and all that. And then we did Dock Street, the marina, all that improvement down there. Not all the docks, but we did some dock work. And the paving. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed budget and schedule public hearing for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 at 7:30 a.m. Motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Jake, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. The proposed budget is accepted and the public hearing has been scheduled for Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 at 7:30 a.m. At this time, I'd like to direct the clerk to please ensure that a notice of the public hearing is published in the Bonner County Daily Bee the next two Fridays, August 14th and August 21st. New business. There's no new business on the agenda this morning. Therefore, this meeting is now adjourned at 7:59.